Far From Heaven. And what doesn't happen at the end of Far From Heaven happens here. And I wondered, you know, where you want Julianne to go and open the lesbian bookstore in Boston or something. It actually happens here, yes. Could you talk a little bit about the relationship of the two films?
Yeah, well, I definitely was so moved by the book and by Phyllis's, the first script I read from Phyllis, and but it was an opportunity to explore an entirely different end of the 50s, the beginning of the 50s, and a very different 1950s than the one we explored in Far From Heaven, which was very self-consciously filtered through the frame of Hollywood backlot, Circean, you know, studio filmmaking from the period, and really wasn't interested in artifice was elevated in the language of the film, and it became sort of the vehicle through which our emotions sort of have to do a refraction, or the prism, I guess is a better word. This was really different, and it was really more, you know, it's funny to compare, and I think there are love stories that might fall into the genre of melodrama, but one real stark difference to me is that the classic love story is not, or the classic melodrama is not rooted in point of view of a character. And the great love stories that I was looking at and thinking about when I first read this are, and the book is, and I was very interested in how that roots and anchors your perspective, and you're almost always on the side of the more vulnerable party in the love affair. And that begins with Rooney's character Therese, but ends with Carol.
And because the point of view shifts and the power shifts, as in any love story, are so fluid and so subtle, I wondered, did you rehearse the whole script through before you shot? I mean, that sense of where the power is and where it ebbs and flows?
We had 2 weeks of rehearsal that we managed to preserve. Thank you, Liz. And which is rare for films that are, you know, low-budget films and period films. But it was so fantastic to sit down with Cate and Rooney and spend that time. And really it was, and some of the other principal characters in the film, but really have that time to read, but talk, you know, and you almost create a kind of history and a backstory, and obviously a rapport amongst the three of us in that process.
Yeah, I would like to ask the two actors the obvious question about how you built that relationship gradually, and how you left it to happen in front of the camera, and how much it was rehearsed and how much it was prepared. And I know it's obvious and it's hard.
Well, like Todd said, we had 2 weeks of rehearsal beforehand where we didn't so much rehearse the scenes, but we just read through the script and sort of marked out the journey together and the different beats and where we each were at, you know, different parts of the script. But I mean, in terms of all of that was mapped out for us really in the script, and you know, a lot of people keep asking me how you created a bond or a relationship, or how you created chemistry, and very much like in real life between two people, it's not really something you can create. It's either something that's there or it's not. And at least one of the things that was helpful for me is that for most of the film, my character is just sort of in awe of this woman, and you know, that was definitely captured on camera because that was a very easy thing for me to pretend to be. It was very much how I felt.
just looking at the choices that Rooney's made as an actor, you know, I feel like we've often gravitated to similar kind of things, and so I felt like from the get-go there was something shared between us. But it was very much a triangle with Todd involved, and although he wasn't in the bed during the sex scene, but almost. That would have been fun. But I think Rooney has this, this incredible openness, and in a similar way to Todd, you know, that there's no judgment, and so anything can be done, anything can be said, nothing's stupid, nothing's random, and I think even though we were just sitting around a table talking, strangely, you know, it was about building a trust, so that anything could happen. And a lot of their experiences, as you've just seen, happens away from each other. And so I relished the moments that we had together in the way that the characters did, because so often she'd be off with fucking Richard, you know, doing something else. And so there was some, you know, when we were together and got the chance to actually talk at length, it was really, I think it felt special, just formally special.
One more question for the writer. When did you get involved with this novel, and did you ever think of, in the novel is very much a road movie. I mean, it's much more a road movie than the film, and how did you make that adjustment and that change?
When the project came to me and I read the novel, I was terrified, because it's such an interior monologue of sorts. And I thought, well, I know that we can't have an hour and a half of voiceover in cars. And we've just got to create a character for Carol, number one, and make Therese interesting enough for this woman in this situation to, to give up her child and find herself. And it was fairly terrifying until I realized that I could throw half the trip away. And then it came much more easily, and in the novel, I don't know, people have read it, there's a whole section where Therese goes off after the road trip, after the discovery. And she sort of becomes sort of a lumberjack secretary for a little while, and just hangs out in weird places. And I got very interested in that, and then thought, no. Everyone wants to see them get together, so let's move it along. And it was oddly freeing.
But I think it's exactly what you did. I mean, cinema and Todd as a director so beautifully harnesses the shift from subjectivity to objectivity, and you really did flesh out. It was like, in a way, the novels, obviously from Therese's perspective, it's a little bit like viewing your parents arguing or having sex through the door. You know, until you've argued and had sex yourself, you can't put that into an objective reality, and you completely did that with Carol.